Today it's this case, and unfortunately it's not the first, and it's sure to not be the last. A bioethicist and a court and CPS and a hospital all say this Connecticut teen cannot refuse chemo treatment for her cancer.
Yeah, they're saying that the experts have decided they know what's best for a child over that 17-year-old girl, over her mother, over her parents. And so it's technocracy. It's a medical tyranny technocracy ruled by experts.
And we live in an age of state power where that power becomes more and more absolute, and the idea that you have any freedoms at all is illusory, and it slips through as soon as they don't approve of what you're doing. And here's this bioethicist, by the way, arguing that because Cassandra is 17 and still a minor, she should not have the right to say no.
CMC doctors pushed Cassandra to get chemo against her will. Cassandra pushed back by running away from home, which ultimately led to DCF taking custody of her. She was then returned to CCMC to get chemo.
But Cassandra said it was making her sick. She didn't want to face her hair falling out. She didn't want to be rendered infertile and have reproductive and uterine problems and so forth.
But the hospital decided, since she was refusing treatment, to go ahead and get CPS involved. They took the kid away.
She has always, even years ago, said that if ever she had cancer or diagnosed with cancer, whatever, she would not put poison into her body.
Down here at the bottom, this bioethicist Arthur Kaplan, who writes for NBC News, says, respecting choice is important, but not burying a teenage girl who would have lived is far more important. Yeah, very important. So important, in fact, that 2 months ago, this same hypocrite was on NBC News talking about how this 29-year-old girl should have the right to kill herself if she wants to. Okay? And that he doesn't understand why why there aren't more physicians across this country who are permitted to prescribe lethal doses of drugs to the dying. So if you want to kill yourself, he's all for respecting that choice. Go die right now, that's fine. But if you don't want to get chemotherapy, which could also kill you, you should not have that choice, especially not if you're 17. You as a parent don't have that choice. No one has that choice. And by the way, just so you guys know, the cancer figures of how many people are dying from cancer, you can't even trust those figures. You want to know why? Because when somebody dies of chemotherapy while being treated for cancer, guess what they mark it down as? A cancer death, not a chemotherapy death.
There was a study that was published, I believe it was in 1994. They did a meta-analysis of these people all around the world who developed cancer as adults for 12 years and were treated with chemo. And they published the results in the Journal of Clinical Oncology. 97% of the time, chemotherapy does not work. 97% of the time, chemotherapy does not work.
And they took it to the courts, and the court said, you will comply. This is not your decision. This is not your right to make this decision for yourself. You will be forced to take these treatments. And that's it. They say that they're the experts and that you'll die without it. They know what's better than you do for yourself, and it's the allopathic medicine system. And the thing that people need to realize about this is they're starting off with these things first with things like cancer, which, by the way, we're not even talking about why we have so many teenage and little kids running around with cancer these days. That's a whole nother video. But besides that, on a side note of that, if the courts today can say they know it's better for your child than you do as a parent and force you to have toxins shot into your child's body, just think about where that slippery slope is going to head. Vaccines, anyone? Because it is. They're going to argue the same argument. You will see the same arguments when they start trying to take away people's rights to object to vaccinations.
Well, just as they try to bolster eugenics with, well, it's a Down syndrome kid. It's for the best. I mean, everyone understands that, right? They've been doing it with cancer in children who don't want this treatment, who want either alternative treatment or just don't want to go through the hell of chemotherapy, which no one thinks is safe. People die from it. It's horrible on the system. It's a poison, but that's not being respected when it's the parent's choice for a minor. It happened with the Amish family, Sarah Hirschberger. The court tried to order them to take chemo. They tried to get various, child protective services involved. They went into hiding, and through a long legal process, I guess the court finally dropped it, at least for now. Here's an 8-year-old girl whose parents believed in alternative treatment. Parents refused chemo for daughter. Court intervenes. That's the Parisian family. They forced this girl to undergo chemo when she didn't want to do it. The parents didn't want it. And you know that trend is going to continue. What's troubling is, why is the state getting the default judgment when it comes to our individual lives and our health? Science does not always get it right. Medical science is not always right. They know there's a margin of error. Things can happen. You could die accidentally in the treatment. The treatment could fail. The treatment is not 100% successful for almost anything, especially serious stuff.
It kills healthy cells.
And there's also horror stories. Only a couple months ago, a doctor pled guilty, admitting in court that he gave chemo treatments to patients who did not need it when it was medically not necessary, so he could make extra cash.
This is what he did. This was somebody who was considered a prominent cancer doctor. You know, one of those so-called quote-unquote experts, derisive air quotes, the same kind of experts they're always saying are going to save your life. This was one of those people, and he was diagnosing healthy people with cancer and then giving them chemotherapy drugs for the purpose of making a profit. So did these people get a second opinion? Because I would want like 5 or 10 or maybe even 20 opinions at this point.
Chemotherapeutic drugs are the only classification of drugs that the prescribing doctor gets a direct cut of. If you go to a medical doctor, an MD, with a sinus infection, and that doctor prescribes an antibiotic, he gets no financial kickback. Your doctor prescribes chemotherapy for you. Here's how it goes, more or less. The doctor buys it from the pharmaceutical company for $5,000, sells it to the patient for $12,000, insurance pays $9,000, and the doctor pockets the $4,000 difference.
We need a Bill of Rights for medical freedom. That's something that Founding Father Dr. Benjamin Rush warned about back in the day. And he said, his quote's right here, quote, "Unless we put medical freedom in the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men and deny equal privileges to others. The Constitution of the Republic should make a special privilege for medical freedoms as well as religious freedoms. And food is medicine. That's traditionally been known throughout history. So food freedom, medical freedom, both of these need to be recognized as a Bill of Rights, right enshrined in the Constitution. Had that been done back in the founding days, maybe we wouldn't be so far along in a day when they're force vaccinating people, forcing chemotherapy on people, including children, and looking for more powers as well."
This is the land of the medically enslaved, period. And this is only going to get worse. They're only going to continue down this road.
The only reason chemotherapy is used is because doctors make money from it, period. It doesn't work 97% of the time. If Ford Motor Company made an automobile that exploded 97% of the time, would they still be in business? No. This is the tip of the iceberg of the control that the pharmaceutical industry has on us. Most people have no idea